Hello students, welcome back to Accounting 2302, Managerial Accounting. This is Dr. Mercados with you today. And in today's lecture, I'm going to be covering problem 18-2B. This problem does not have a video. It showed me how video is engaged, so I decided to create this lecture for you to hopefully help you understand the problem a little bit better. Okay. Now, problem 18-2B deals with multiple production department overhead rates. It is very important that before you begin working on your assignments, you read the chapter in full. Now, when we are solving a problem, it is important to always direct yourself to the section of your ebook that relates to the problem. In this particular case, we're dealing with objective 3. So I went back to the book and I located the objective 3, which deals with the multiple production department overhead rate method. And here is where you're going to locate the information that you need to solve the problem. So this is what I recommend students do. They look over the problem. Okay, it relates to a specific objective. You go back to the objective, you reread that section, and that way you have a better understanding of what's going on. So the multiple production department overhead rate method uses different rates for each production department to allocate manufacturing overhead costs to products. Okay, so in this particular chapter, we've learned about the single plant-wide rate, which is a very basic one, and now we're going to be introducing the multiple production department overhead rate, where we have we're assigning multiple rates to different departments. Okay, so the department overhead rate allocation, the formula is the production department overhead rate is equal to the budgeted department manufacturing overhead divided by the budgeted department allocation base. Okay, so let's see what the problem entails. Now this problem is kind of like a continuation. In problem 18-1, we were to solve the single plant wide. In problem 18-2, we're going to solve the multiple production. Okay, now for purposes of this problem, our focus will be on problem 18-2. That is what we're solving. But in order for us to solve problem 18-2, we need some of the data from 18-1. So that's why I have it here, because we need that table to be able to solve for what is needed for problem 18-2. Okay, so let's see what it says. Okay, it says the management of Spotted Cow Dairy Company described in problem 1B now plans to use the multiple production department overhead rate method. The total manufacturing overhead associated with each department is as follows. So the overhead is going to be $178,200 for the blending department and $121,500 for the packing department, for a total of $299,700. Now if we look at problem 1, that is the total amount that was provided to us in the first section. It's just that now they are providing us with the allocation by department. Before we were only given the total. When we were doing the single plant wide, now we need the departmental information to be able to use or calculate the multiple production rates. Okay, so instructions: determine the multiple production department overhead rates using machine hours for the blending department and direct labor hours for the packing department. That is very important, because the machine hours and the direct labor hours, those are our allocation basis. Okay, so we need to know how we're going to allocate our overhead by. And they're telling you here that machine hours is going to be used for the blending and labor hours for the packing department. Okay, so let's tackle the first requirement first. Okay, so we're going to start off with the production department manufacturing overhead totals. Okay, now per the problem, this is given to us. We don't have to do any rocket science here. We're just going to copy that data over here. Okay, so the production department manufacturing overhead totals, we are given $178,200 for the blending, and we are given $121,500 for the packing. Okay, all we did was copy and paste that information over. That is our production department manufacturing overhead totals. Okay, now we're going to divide by the activity base. Okay, let me see if I have the symbol here. Yes, we're going to divide by the activity base. Okay. Now the activity base, it tells you here that for the blending department it's machine hours, for the packing department it's labor hours. Okay, so For the blending department, it says that we're going to be using machine hours. So we're going to go to the data, okay? We're going to look at machine hours for the blending department. So we're looking at the blending department, and this is where students sometimes get confused, okay? So we're going to be looking at the blending department, and the blending department, the allocation base is on machine hours. So we're going to pick up, let me go ahead and mark it here. We're going to pick up the, let me see right here. We're going to pick up the total machine hours for the blending department, which is 1,620. Okay, that is my allocation base because the problem says that for the blending department, we're going to allocate using machine hours. So that's 1,620. Okay, so it's 1,620. And this is machine hours. Okay. Now for the packing department, it says that we're going to use direct labor hours. So now we're going to go to the packing department, and for that one, we are going to be using direct labor hours. So we're going to pick up the total over here of 1,620. Okay. Let me see. Packing, for the packing department, determine the multiple production department overhead rates using machine hours for the blending department. So we're doing machine hours, and direct labor hours for the packing department. Okay. And the number of direct labor hours for packing, it's 1,620. Okay, let me see, what did I do? Oh, I'm sorry. The packing department is 900. Okay, that's 1,620 is the total of the two up top. So we're looking at the direct labor hours for the packing department. That's the 470 plus the 300 plus the 130. That gives you the 900 right there. Okay, so direct labor hours for packing department 900. Machine hours for the blending department 1,620. So over here we're gonna have 900, and this is direct labor hours. Okay. So now that we have our production department manufacturing overhead totals and our activity base, we simply divide those two numbers. So that's going to give us our production department rate. Okay. So let's underline that, and let's underline this. Okay. So what are we going to do? We're going to get the total of the production department manufacturing overhead divided by our activity base. That's going to give me $110, okay, per machine hour. For my packing department, it's going to be 121,500 divided by 900 direct labor hours. That's going to be $135 per direct labor hour. Okay, so that is the amounts that we got. Okay, so they're asking you determine the multiple production department overhead rates. My overhead rates are going to be $110 per machine hour and $135 per direct labor hour. This is requirement 1. Okay. Okay. Let me just put here a 1. Okay, there we are. Okay, now requirement number 2. I'm sorry. My keyboard is just going crazy on me today. Okay. Okay. So requirement number 2 says, determine the product manufacturing overhead cost using the multiple production department rates calculated in number 1. So now we're going to determine the manufacturing overhead cost. Okay. So we have 3 different products over here. We've got the whole milk, the skim milk, and the cream. We're going to allocate using the rates provided. So we're going to start off with the whole milk. Okay. So we're going to determine the product manufacturing overhead costs using the rates that we just calculated. So for the whole milk, we have the 2 departments. We've got the blending department and we've got the packing department. And then we're going to have the total manufacturing overhead for whole milk. Okay. So for the blending department, okay, what do we have? Well, let's look at the blending department, and we're looking at whole milk. Okay, so we're going to be looking at the blending department for whole milk. We've got 650 machine hours. Remember, we're allocating using machine hours for the blending. Okay, so we have 650 machine hours. We're going to multiply that by the rate. For the blending department, we calculated the rate of $110, okay, per machine hour. And let's see what that gives us. So it's going to be 650 times 110. That's going to give me 71,500. Okay. Now we're going to do the packing department. Now for the packing department, we're going to be looking down here for whole milk. We have direct labor hours of 470. So we're going to pick up the 470. So this is what we're picking up. For the first one, we did the blending department whole milk. We did it right there. Okay. Okay, let me see. Okay, so we're going to insert. Okay, so we're doing the 650. That's where we got picked up the first number from. Okay. Now the second number we're picking up is we're going to pick up the whole milk, but now for the packing department. So that's the 470. That's where the numbers are coming from. Okay. So we're going to be doing the same thing. It's just that for blending, we use machine hours. For packing, we use labor. Okay. So we've got 470 direct labor hours. Okay. And we're going to multiply that by my direct labor hour rate is $135 per direct labor hour. Okay. So that's going to give us 470 times 135. That gives me 63,450. Okay. So now we can get the total. We'll add those two numbers together. And that would give me 134,950. That is my total manufacturing cost to make my whole milk. That includes the blending and the packing department. Okay, so that's the amount for the whole milk. We're going to repeat the same process. Now we're going to be doing skim milk. Okay, I'm going to just copy this and copy it down. And then I'll just change this so I can save some time. Skim milk. Okay. So let's now look at the skim milk for the blending department. Okay, so skim milk, we're going to go ahead and we're going to look over here at skim milk. We've got 710. Okay. Let me do it again because I don't know what's going on. Here we go. Let me make this a little bit smaller. Okay, there we go. So we're doing skim milk. We're going to do inserts, shapes. We're going to do this one. And now we're doing the 710. And that's going to be the number that we're going to use, 710. Okay. So we're going to do 710 machine hours. My rate is $110 per machine hour. So then that's going to be 710 times 110. That's going to give me 78,100. Okay. We're going to do the same thing for the packing department. We're going to go down. Remember, the packing department, we use labor hours. Okay. So we're going to do in the shape so we can know where we're getting the number. We're getting it from right there. Skim milk, we've got 300. So that's where I'm picking up the 300 from. So we go to skim milk, the packing department, that's 300. So we're going to have 300 direct labor hours times my rate that we calculated in number 1 was 135. That's going to give me 300 times 135, 40,500. We add the two together. Okay. And that gives me my total manufacturing overhead for skim milk of 118,600. Okay. Last but not least, we've got the cream. Okay. I'm going to copy this down. I'm just going to change this. Okay. So let's look at the cream, and we're looking at the blending department. This is the last one we've got. So let's look at the data. So we're looking at the cream now. We're going to highlight that cream number. We've got 260 for the cream. Okay. So my 260, we're going to bring it up to the formula. So we've got for the blending department 260 machine hours at a rate of 110 per machine hour. That is going to be 260 times 110, 28,600. Now we're going to look at the packing department. The packing department, dealing with direct labor hours. We're going to go ahead and let's insert the shape. We've got 130 direct labor hours. That's the number we're going to use. Okay. So we've got 130 direct labor hours. Multiply it by the rate. The rate is 135 per direct labor hour. That's going to be 130 times 135. That's going to give me 17,550. So we add the two together. And that's going to give me 46,150 for the cream. Okay. So we've allocated the blending department allocation and the packing department manufacturing overhead costs to the different products, to the whole milk, to the skim milk, or to the cream. And we allocated based on the products, and each of the products had a different allocation base. Remember, for the blending department, we're using machine hours. For the packing department, we are using direct labor hours. So this gives us a more accurate representation of the cost distribution or the manufacturing overhead costs associated with each of the products. Okay, the key here is to first calculate your production department rate. Once you have your production department rate calculated, you simply use those figures to run the numbers based on the actual either driver, whatever it is, whether it be the allocation base of machine hours or direct labor hours in this particular instance. So the formula is the same for all three products. The only thing that changes is the actual machine hours or labor hours used for either the blending or the packing department. Okay, so this gives a more accurate representation, a more accurate distribution of the cost. Okay, so please make sure that as you're working your assignments, you read the chapter, you review the examples provided. There's Show Me How videos. There's the videos that I record for some of the problems. If you have any questions, please feel free to send me a Blackboard message, a Pronto message, or an email, and I will try to respond as soon as I can. Okay, so happy learning. I hope you all are enjoying Chapter 18. And until next time, have a wonderful day.